How do you spend the bye week? Like, what's the self-scouting that look like for you? You find anything that you feel like might be helpful?
Yeah, I went. The self-scout thing to me, like you watch the game each week, right? And then you go back through and you kind of get an idea of what you've done as you're going into your next game, because it's always trying to, what is our opponent seeing? But it gave you a chance to just go back from the beginning and watch it more in like chronological order, each phase. And so able to find, a couple things. It was interesting when you take a look, like, from a number standpoint, this is the first time I'll go look at like the stats, okay, like exactly where are we and that sort of thing, so that it's not a judge view of my opinion, it's actually like what the numbers say. And so when you go back and you look and you're like, all right, well, the numbers aren't great in our coverage units, the punt and the kickoff stuff, and then you go back and you say, okay, why? And obviously you go back to, we had a poor game early in the season, and you can never take away one play, for example, but it's actually encouraging that we've improved. And when you look at it, and so, for example, like if you take the punt return against Seattle away for a touchdown, that puts your net up above 42, and it puts you like the average return you're giving up is like 7 yards. And those are kind of like what your season's goal is. So you can't eliminate it, right? It does exist, but at least it's encouraging that we've shown that we've improved, and guys are really starting to understand what we want to do.
You like about Pettis, his return?
Look, he's a natural catcher. I feel good about the way he's able to track the ball and he's able to catch it on a punt return standpoint, right? And then two, even when he filled in last year for us after Sheed had gotten hurt, I mean, he averaged, I think it was like 11 yards per punt return, which was really good. He had, one should have had a chance for a touchdown where he just steps out of bounds there. He has the ability to see things and it developed for him. And I think that goes back to the cumulative reps. I mean, he was outstanding in college, and I remember, when I was at Penn State, we actually played Washington in the Fiesta Bowl, and he was the returner. And I remember, for a couple of weeks thinking to myself, golly, this is like the all-time touchdown guy. And we got to, my first game as coordinator was that game, and we got to go defend him. And fortunately, we were able to kick all fair catches. He didn't get a chance.
Blake kind of right in the ship. He's made 7 out of his last 8. The one missed not trying to set you up or anything.
No, you know what? Honestly, I don't. I just think he went through a little bit of a rough patch, and it's one of those things. I think all players go through it at different positions, and obviously in the specialist position, it's just magnified, because of the limited opportunities. I mean, when you go out there, you have to go perform. But it wasn't anything like, and I know, it was practice, but it wasn't like anything that was showing up where there were a lot of misses in practice. He just went into the games, and he had a couple that missed here or there. And, we believe in him, and I want to continue to stick by him because I do believe that he has a really, really bright future. I think he's excellent at what he does. And, I think the way you just look, and I look at like some other positions, for example, there's players in this league that are on other teams right now that are really performing well, and maybe, people had given up on them too soon, and, nothing more sticks out. You go look at a couple of quarterbacks that are playing really good football right now, and I know they're different positions, but, a guy like Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones or Baker Mayfield, like they had some rough patches, but there were people, that believed in him, and maybe it had to be at a different place, and now it's coming and showing there. So I do think one of the things as a coach, if you truly believe in somebody because you know the work ethic, you see what they do, and you're willing to just, ride it out with them because you feel that they're going to do well in the end.
What are your thoughts on we haven't talked to you since the Panthers game, the block with how do you assess that? Bam, obviously.
Yeah, look, it's a shame. I assess it as we really got unlucky. It's like you have a game-changing momentum play. You don't let them tie the game. You get a great block, and now all of a sudden it's their ball, first and goal, or first and 10 over. And it's a challenging situation, right? Because, and we cover it, we watch him every week, and like I said, like Cam knew the rule. He just lost sight of where he was, right? So, but the thing a lot of people may not know, right, is if the ball's blocked and it goes behind the line of scrimmage, both teams can advance it. Like the defense can scoop and score and go for a touchdown. If the offense picks it up behind the line of scrimmage, they can go run for a first down. And then if it goes over the line of scrimmage, clearly, right, obviously then the defense can pick it up, but if they fumble it or muff it and an offense gets on it, it becomes their ball. But it's kind of like the no risk reward deal there. When it goes over the line of scrimmage, clearly it's pretty easy. Hey, we'll make a poison call, get away from it. We know we're going to get the ball at the block spot, and then it's that gray area. If all of a sudden, if the ball would have been a foot behind, and now Carolina's own lineman picks it up, and he's able to, if it was 4th and 1, go forward for a first down. It's a challenging spot for those guys right there, like what to do. And so he lost track of exactly where he was, but it was a good play by Shep. You know, that's the kind of thing that got overshadowed a little bit, and it was, again, just an outstanding effort. I think I talked to you guys before just about how proud I am when you watch our field goal block unit. You know, we've gotten 2 so far this year, but just the effort and the disruption those guys are causing.
How do you expand on like, seeing if the analytics kind of match what you saw in this scout? Like, is that what sort of data are you using for that? And,
Yeah.
Is that sort of like a new thing, or is that something you've been doing for?
Yeah, throughout my career, you know, just trying to match it up. There's so much information that you have now, and there's so many different specifics that you can study. So I think as a coach, you're trying to always let the silent tape talk to you first, and then you try to match up what the data, what the analytics are telling you, and hopefully those two things are the same. Sometimes, most of the time they are, but if there's differences, then you can see why.
How much of the run defense performance against Carolina was, you know, you guys just brought it on that day and had a good performance, or you had identified some things going into that game that you thought could improve your run defense?
Yeah, Mike, I think that we just built on our performance throughout the year because I think it had been really solid. I think what was special about that performance, a special run performance was that, our tackling was the best it's been all year. And if I had just one thing to say, our tackling was elite in that game. And a lot of it was because there wasn't a lot of space in the tackles, And so I think our guys did a really good job at the point of attack in that game. And then we had a lot of 2 guys, 3 guys on the ball carrier where you didn't get these individual tackles against a special runner, because he's really good. And so is Chuba Hubbard. He's really good too. So it was just a really, I think, quality performance by the whole group. And that's why I think you saw the performance. It was quality by everybody for all 4 quarters.
Kellen was also saying that feels like the secondary of the last month has played a lot better. I'm just curious on your vantage point on that. What do you think is improved?
I think we have, for sure. I thought the Rams game was a tough game for us, but I thought it was a very useful game for us moving forward in terms of learning how we need to play, especially against a premium passing attack. But I think that they're doing the little things well, starting with their alignment, starting with where their eyes go, and then playing with the right technique. Our guys that are young definitely have the right mindset. The scheme and I would say their command of knowing what to do, and that's not been the issue. It's just playing it right and playing it at the high level, and that's where you're going to get the playmaking, and that's where you're going to get the consistency of the playmaking. So I just think we've been a lot more consistent fundamentally, and that's led to sounder coverage, tighter coverage, more plays being made. And again, as you guys saw, that Carolina group's got a lot of good players in it. But we've also, and I think you mentioned it, we've faced a lot of good passing attacks. So I think you factor in that experience. Some of these young guys have really been able to learn and improve through that, and hopefully that's set them up to have a good second half of the season.
It looks like when they show you on TV, your call sheets, kind of, you see some guys with huge ones. Do you have really good eyes, or are you just deliberate about what you put on your sheet? Because it definitely looks, you see some guys that say, man, there's no way you're using everything on there, but
right.
What's your process for that?
My process is I want everything on one sheet. And I think that it's kind of that. I read a book a long time ago that you should be able to put your blueprint on one page. Even if you're the CEO of an organization, you should be able to put it all on one page. And so I'm kind of that way. And I think there's an advantage that people can't see it. If you have to flip over, sometimes now they can zoom in and see some things, and that's a fact. And so I like the fact that it's hidden, but I also like the fact that it's tight, and I think that that's something I've learned, more and more, is that you got to keep it simple, to be effective. And, and then hopefully my eyes will stay with me here so that, that font doesn't have to get bigger. I'm sure it's going to have to get bigger, but we're not there yet.
On possible fumble recovery, Alante, rather than jumping the ball,
Yeah.
go up Coker, is that how you coach that?
Oh man, such an awesome, cool, heads up, heady, situational play. Kellen showed it to our team, and hopefully people are showing it around the league. Just a super heady play by him to see that the ball's on the deck and that guy's going to try and get it. And I can't probably scoop it, so I can prevent him from scooping it. And then now I allow my teammates to go make the play. It was just such a heads-up play. One of those like glue guy winning plays that us coaches, love to teach off of, but a huge moment in the game. Because if he goes to gets it, kicks it, whatever, maybe that guy gets it, something bad happens. But, Alante really capped, I think, a special performance with a super heady play.
Have you seen Tyler's feel for the pocket improve over the course of GAs to now?
I think that was one of the really big things for him early on, playing on the scout team. When you play on that scout team, that rush is really fast. So it forces you to really speed your process up, your mental process. It forces you to speed your feet up. Now, obviously, the plays can be a little bit different at times, but we try and train our guys to treat the plays as if they're our plays. So kind of put yourself into one of our plays. It's very similar to this play so that you can train your feet and your eyes.
Taysom, he's 5 or 6 games back on the field. Maybe start to find a little bit more of a groove. I mean, that was obviously a pretty significant injury for anybody, let alone somebody who does as much as he does. So,
Yeah.
is he kind of starting to find something?
Well, I think, obviously, it's great to have him back. We knew it would be a big piece. And then, for us, it's been an adjustment figuring out how best to use him. Obviously, like I said before, we didn't have him during training camp. So, you look at the last drive of the game, we got the ball with 7.5 minutes to go in the game, and we're able to possess the ball to end the game. And he was a big part of that. So there's things that he's really helping us and is going to continue to help us moving forward.
What do you make of the Falcons' young pass rushers, Walker and Pierce?
Yeah, they got length, they got speed, they got quickness. They're book edge guys. You know what I mean? You got to be aware of them. We're going to have to do a really good job. And they obviously have done a really good job. You look at their sack numbers, one of the elite sack teams in the league. So that's going to be a challenge for us.